What's up, everybody? I'm Tim.
And I'm Tori.
And this is the Stuck Together podcast, back for episode
11.
Yeah.
Woo.
We made it.
Yep.
Past 10.
Past 10. The big 1-0.
Yep.
Yep. Hey, we're filming the 11th episode on November 1st, which is 11-1.
1-1-1.
1-1-1-1-1-1.
Yeah, not that many ones.
1-1-1-1-1.
Yeah, that many ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly that many ones.
Filming episode 11 on November 1st.
Yes. So, do we want to just get right into the movie of the week, or do we want to talk about our week in general?
My week was fine. How was your week?
Stressful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm tired. I
Yep.
feel like the past couple episodes of the podcast, that's just been the theme, is I'm tired and just over it. Not over the podcast,
No.
but yeah, work's been busy, you know?
Yeah.
Life's been just I think I'm just like, I'm a little worn out from the year. It's been an insanely busy year for us.
Oh, yeah.
Like, so much stuff. I'm not used to being invited to so many things, which I know sounds like I'm grateful, obviously, but it's just a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The whole year's been chock full of stuff.
Yep.
Nonstop.
Yeah.
Feels like every time we stop for a second, something else just fills the time.
Yeah. Either a trip or someone visiting or birthdays, all that. Again, blessed to have a family.
Yeah, it's
and
not
all
bad
that,
stuff.
but
It's just lots and lots and lots of stuff.
yeah. But yeah. So, yeah. Sage got into the cabinet today.
Yep.
Our food cabinet, our pantry.
Yep. Some people are like, "Oh, Tim just hates Sage for no reason," and it's like, Sage, I could give you a list of all the stuff. We got hospital bills for her.
It's a long list.
She gets into the cupboards and actively gets stuff out to eat it.
Yeah.
Like dangerous stuff for her, like just constantly.
She ate some dark chocolate today. Luckily, it was only a little bit, and she's so big that she'd need to eat a lot to do anything, but still. Just so frustrating. And it's like our cabinets it's not like a pantry, like not like a walk-in one, you know, like people have that are on the floor.
Yeah.
It's like a cabinet, like above a counter. She got in there.
Yep.
And ate stuff. Only on Tim's side, though.
Yeah.
We have separate sides of the cabinets for like our snacks and stuff, and she only ate his.
Yep. She got on my side of the cabinet for whatever reason. Came home and there's just wrappers of stuff all over the floor and the cabinets are open.
Yeah.
And she has the audacity to come up to me and be excited and say hi. Like she deserves to live here anymore.
What was funny is when I came home, you were already like here and laying on the couch, and you were like, go look at the counter. And I thought you had like surprised me with something. I was like, oh, what did he get me? Or like whatever. And then for a second you like didn't really react, and I was like, is it good or bad? You were like, it's really bad. I was like, oh, never mind.
Yep. So I didn't have dark chocolate after dinner tonight.
Oh yeah.
She had all of it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Was it only a little bit?
Yeah, it's a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, so she's fine, but I'm not.
I have
No.
treats if you want a treat.
Also, the cats peed all over my clothes, so that's great.
Scout did. I don't believe
Right.
Freya's a part of this.
No, Freya's not.
Freya's very good about using the litter box, but we recently got the Breeze litter box with like the pellets, like the water resistant pellets, and it's been going great because Scout has recently, with age, her 9th birthday was yesterday. She's been very, very picky with her litter box. Like way more picky than she ever was. in the past like year or two. And so this new litter box, since no urine could build up, because it basically seeps through the litter into a lid, like a urine pad underneath. So since no urine could stay in the litter box, it's been really good for her, because she used to, even if there was like whatever her definition of like a little bit too much pee in the litter box, she'd pee on your stuff all the time.
Yeah.
And she's been doing really good, but then yeah, all of a sudden, and we noticed it the day I cleaned the litter box. Like, I cleaned it that morning, and that night you noticed that she had peed on it. So
well,
I'm like,
it must
what
have been
happened?
the day before or something. Like,
Okay.
we just didn't notice until, like, she was already mad, so she wouldn't have done it after you cleaned it.
Oh no, I just since it was still wet, but I guess I didn't
Yeah,
think of it.
I mean,
But
I don't
either
know.
way, she's been doing really good, so it was kind of surprising that she did again.
yeah,
Because it's not really like, she just, I don't even know. There's just certain things that she like gets a scent for and then pees on them. And obviously with a cat, it's like hard to discipline them. But I knew that she was getting more sensitive to the litter box, so the change has really helped. But maybe just something was wrong, or you just never know.
yeah,
But
don't know.
all of that to say, you've had a rough week with the animals.
I'm being targeted, obviously.
They've not been kind to you.
No. Nope.
No, they're doing some. Hi.
Yep, there goes the other one.
Ow. Noisy. Hey. That's Freya. We call her Frita or Frita Schmita.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so this week's been a little weird. It's just been weird, you know.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
When do the planets start going direct again? Isn't it soon? Like
like
in the
next
next couple days? Well, like Saturn in particular.
I don't know. I don't have my phone.
I think it goes direct soon.
Nothing in my mind is even considered until next year.
Got it. Yeah. Well, sounds like it's been a crazy time for everyone. Everyone I say I've been busy to, they're like, me too. Or they tell me they've been busy. It's just it's a weird time.
Yep.
But all right. Well, we getting into it?
Yeah.
All right. This week's movie was
Us.
so yes, it was Us. Me and Tim both had never seen it before.
Yeah, we'll probably have some movies that we have either one of us has seen, or we might rewatch a movie just because we want to talk about it or something. But my favorite's one that we both haven't seen whenever we do watch movies. But yeah, we both had known about Us, and there was a bunch of hype about it when it came out because, well, let's just, first of all, we decided we're going to do spoilers. So if you haven't seen the movie and you don't want it spoiled, we're not going to necessarily like hold back on like specific details or whatever. So
go watch the movie and then come back and listen.
Yep. So it's Us, and it was specifically stated in the opening credits, written, directed, and produced by Jordan Peele.
Yep.
And so yeah, he did Get Out, and everyone knows him from Key and Peele, and you know, his versatility is pretty crazy with all the stuff that he does, especially all the characters that he plays.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that like Key and Peele is like necessarily like not as good as him, but he typically plays more of a type of character where I feel like Peele was always like 10 different people. Like you could just you jump into like the craziest role and he'd be totally different.
Yeah.
So yeah, his versatility is pretty insane, but
yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was really, really good.
Yeah, we loved it. I mean,
we loved it. Yeah, it was great.
It's like basically perfect.
Yeah. I mean, we had both seen Get Out, and so, you know, you kind of, once a like director, producer, whatever, has kind of like established a movie like that, you're kind of like, yeah, this is probably gonna be a pretty great movie.
Yeah.
Like whatever they make next, you know. And so yeah, I kind of went in knowing, especially because of all the hype and everything, I was like, I'm super pumped, and I'm glad that this movie was never ruined for me somehow.
Yeah.
So I knew a little bit about the end, but not in a way that made sense at the time. Like,
Yeah.
I think someone just told me something about the end, and the spoiler made sense once we got to the end of the movie. It didn't make sense until then, basically.
Okay.
Yeah, it's kind of like,
what did they tell you?
They said that what was it? It was like the main character is the fake one or something.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, and that might not even actually be what they said, but all I knew is that last scene where they're in the car and the sun looks over, that like something nefarious was going on there. Like like a plot twist was supposed to happen there. But yeah, it was nothing that took away from the movie.
Oh,
at all.
no, because I don't think I said it before the movie ended, but I was thinking that the whole time. I was like, oh, because just the way they set it up.
Yeah.
I had been thinking that, but let's go back to the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. Essentially, well, I guess I should say before we keep going, I thought that the bad guy like won at the end.
Oh.
That's what the spoiler made it seem like. And so yeah, it wasn't anything about it. But anyways, yeah. So let's go from the beginning, and I wanted to look up what that quote was at the beginning, because I completely forgot it. There was a quote. Oh wait, there wasn't a quote. It was the no, sorry. It was just the little writing at the beginning
about the tunnels.
Yeah, not a quote.
Yeah, well, they talked. So at the beginning, there was before anything happens at all, they were talking about how many tunnels there are in the U.S. Subterranean tunnels, just like unimaginable amounts of tunnels that are abandoned, like they're not even in use. That's not counting like subways and stuff that are in use, and like some of them are old subways, some of them are old tramways, some of them are just like different construction things that got abandoned or never happened, and then some of them we just have no idea what they're for. But there's like all these tunnels under the U.S., and it started with that and kind of just like, you know, was kind of let us in. And like one of the first things I noticed was just how good the color of the movie was.
Yeah.
Like the color and the crispness and the way it was filmed was just so nice. And like I had said in the last podcast talking about kids movies, about how like sometimes it's just nice to like have a kid movie just make sense and just be like, the plot's not crazy, but it works, and we're just watching a movie, and I feel better when it's done. But like with the just like absolutely beautiful color and just sharpness of film, it's just so nice. That was one thing I totally noticed about this movie, was just it looks amazing.
Yes. Yeah, in that opening shot of the wall with the rabbits and the cages, I love that like he opened it with something where you're like, what am I even looking at? Like, what is this? And the like vintage red text on top of that, introducing the movie, the producer, the director, all of that. It was very reminiscent of like old school horror movies. It like really, that opening really reminded me of that.
Well, he also had the long credits at the beginning.
Yes.
Which I super duper loved, which I think that happened right after the intro scene. So they did the whole intro scene, full credits in like a really stylish way, then the movie. And it was perfect.
Yeah.
It was so nice.
Really, really good. And so because right after that, it opens with a TV showing the Hands Across America like news report or something. And so I wanted to say that is something that actually happened.
Oh, yeah.
And so I wanted to see if there is a bunch of tunnels in America that like are abandoned.
I'm sure there are.
I'm sure there are. I'm just like, I want to know like how many, you know, because that is such a cool concept to use, is like all these creepy tunnels that are just underground, like not being used.
It says there's 47,000 abandoned mines in California alone. And then so I mean we're not getting any numbers here.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how would you actually, like, if they're abandoned, you know?
Going through an article. It's a really long article. I'm sure they're real. I don't think
Oh, yeah. I know that there's, I mean, 100% there's tunnels. I was just like, did they play up the amount for the movie? And I don't think so, because everything else from the movie was pretty wow. Okay. Well, yeah, I didn't necessarily have a doubt, but like I think of like, because I know for sure that in like New York, some of the subway systems, they were just like, this isn't gonna work out, and they just like closed it off and like sealed them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like there's definitely plenty of like abandoned projects, and especially, of course, mine shafts. Like, totally.
It says there's substantial evidence that hundreds of people live in tunnels just out of view of regular society in places from Las Vegas to Moscow to Bucharest to New York. And so, you know, you find people who make homes for themselves in hidden nooks and alcoves under the city. And they're just basically in a separate reality. And I remember seeing something about I think the one that I saw one time was in Las Vegas. And there's just this tunnel down there, and just homeless people just have their own little society down there. They have it kind of like quartered off. Like people have their kind of separate sections and come in and out and go do stuff and come back and stuff.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, that's why that was kind of part of the inspiration for the movie.
Yeah.
That's the creepiness of it. And for the record, I also wanted to say that it's labeled horror, but I think we both agreed, but I felt way more like it was just like more of like a psychological thriller than like horror.
Yeah.
I mean, it could basically fit in horror, but yeah, it was super trippy.
Oh, it was so weird and good, and the actors were just
because they have, and also I was pretty glad that they introduced the whole Mirror family really soon.
Yeah.
Because I feel like with horror movies, you're like waiting for like 7/8 of the movie to pass, and then finally you get like bad CGI and like 3 jump scares, and then the movie's over. And so like the fact that it did not take any time at all for the Mirror family to like show up and start like messing stuff up, I was like, yo, this is sick.
Yeah.
Like we have a bunch of movie left. Like where is this going? Like
yeah.
I thought at first that their Mirror family was going to take them down to the tunnels, and then something would happen down there. But so I was pleasantly surprised when that didn't happen either.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I have no idea where this is going. Like I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah. What I loved is like because again, I had this like kind of faint idea about what it was about. Like I knew that there were 2 of the main girl.
Right.
That's all I knew. But I didn't know how that happened. I didn't know if they were actually twins or whatever. Like I barely knew anything. And so I loved the creepy ass shot of them in the driveway holding hands, like the whole family, like the Mirror family. Like, first of all, fuck that. Like absolutely not.
Yeah.
So creepy. Just like a really powerful, like creepy image, because they were also like, it was just silhouettes of them. You couldn't tell who they were. But I like that for quite a big chunk of the movie at the beginning, you just see that Mirror family, and you're like, oh God, who are these people? Like, why are they here? It's just these 4? Like, what's going on?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
you're like, oh, why are they here? Did they just like come, like, where are they from? Like, you know, because they don't give away anything either. Like the Mirror family, they just kind of explain, like, you know, that they're the shadow and, like, you know, essentially that, like, we're linked and, like, whatever you did in your life, I was forced to do in mine, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then, like, you're like, oh, yes, they escaped. They're getting out. Like, cool. Like, I'm glad they got away from these creepy shadow people. And then you go to, like, the scene cuts to their friend's house and the same thing happens to them. And it's this thing where then you realize, like, oh my God, it's happening to everyone.
Yeah.
Because for a second I was like, is this just going to be a weird thing that happens to this family? Like, I had no inkling in my mind that it was going to take the turn it did, in the sense of, like, everyone has a shadow and they're all trying to kill you. You know?
Right.
I didn't think about that. I was like, oh, this weird thing that happened to this family because she directly interacted with hers. I thought it just was them.
Yeah.
And then when it went to the other family and then they got murdered, I was like, oh my God. Like, where is this story going to go now? Because this is so much scarier than just one family, you know?
Yeah.
Like one family being attacked or whatever.
Well, and the main family did, well, I mean, everybody was an amazing actor in the movie, but I felt like at the beginning when you're getting to know the family and seeing how they all act with each other or whatever, that they were good actors. And, like, the dad was, like, super corny dad with dad jokes and, like, but goofy and funny and whatever. And the mom was just, like, you know, super on edge, whatever. It's a horror movie, whatever. And the son is, like, kind of awkward. And, like, they did such a good job just being themselves. And then when the shadow family comes and they're the same actors playing these, like, crazy roles of this opposite reality, you're like, holy crap. Like being an actor for one role is enough of a job, and then they do both, like, flawlessly.
They felt like two different people. It's like I kept forgetting that they were the same person.
It was so incredible. Like,
Yeah.
I was blown away watching the movie. I was like, these guys are insanely good.
Yeah.
Like, insanely good actors.
So good and so creepy. Just so, oh my God, you know, just like there's something. So, I mean, there's quite a few different, I think, obviously, like with any movie, there's a lot of different interpretations that you can take with it. But I know from other, like, doppelganger movies and just doppelganger stories, and the reason why certain folklore is so scary because it impersonates people, is the idea of, like, they literally call it the shadow in the movie, but it's like facing your shadow, like facing this person who is you, but that, like, you don't recognize type thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
kind of like that psychological thing of there's a person inside of you that you don't want to face, that if they were presented to you, like, how would you feel? You know, like, there can be that, there's that like, you know, analysis, of course, of, like, you know, self-reflection is scary, and, like, meeting your darker self is terrifying, you know, and that kind of thing. But then there's all the other things, like the fact that the government was in charge of these, what were they actually called?
Oh, I don't know. Well,
like,
but
replicants, or not replicants, but
no, the monologue from the shadow from the tunnels, that was her theory, was she thought that they were trying to create these shadow people who mirrored the people on the surface, and then they abandoned the project, but the shadow people stayed there, and then when people grew up and had kids, the shadows just kept reproducing and living down there as shadows. And just, like, so weird. But that was her theory. And it is kind of nice that the movie didn't say, like, this is what happened. It did just kind of make it like, is that what happened? That's her theory, and we don't know. Like, kind of makes sense, but what did happen?
Yeah, I kind of, interpreted it as, you know, from her perspective, the government, or, you know, someone wanted to control the people on the surface, so they created the copies to basically be the one in control. But it turned out, for some reason, that the the like people under the surface were actually being controlled by the ones above. So it ended up not working.
Yeah.
You know, it basically had the opposite effect. And you could see that with like them having to like walk through the tunnels and stuff and like be in the proximity of people but not actually wanting to be there type thing, you know. And it's just such an odd thing to think about, you know.
Well, and they mentioned that only one of the two of the people, because the shadows were like real people, but they were like linked somehow supernaturally, but they kind of signified that one of them had like the soul. So like basically by default the people on the surface have the soul. And so so that was like kind of the crux of like the whole deal going on, was that the people in the bottom were like soulless humans being controlled by people on the surface for no reason, because the test didn't even matter anymore.
Right. Yeah, and just oh man, there's like so much to it that it's so like just creepy. I particularly do not like doppelganger stuff. It really freaks me out.
Oh, I don't care. I don't have like a weird thing about it.
Oh my god, it freaks me out so bad. I'm just like, absolutely not.
What would you do if another you
oh my god
showed up at the door behind us right now?
Don't
look.
It.
She might be there.
Stop.
Just a version of you menacingly in the corner.
Oh my god, it's I would pass away. I would simply pass away. Oh my god.
And give the soul to your shadow?
Oh my god, it's just so scary. Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like, mainly.
I'd try to be friends with mine. I'd be like, yo, let's team up.
They don't want to be your friend though. Like, anything pretending to be you or like, you know,
Well, I guess our difference is that my first thought goes to if I had some sort of parallel reality crossover where a version of me gets here somehow. Even if he was ill-intended or like evil or whatever, I'd still be like, yo, think about this for a minute. This is a crazy scenario. We should work together. We can do this. I would just try and be like, soak up the reaction, the experience, and like try and make it work.
Well, yeah, if like another me came through the door that acted like me, or like, you know, it'd be crazy to like, you know, have another you around. I'm not saying that inherently is creepy. It's just like every story, every folklore, everything of something trying to like, it's something trying to impersonate you. And so
but that's different.
In us, that's not the case. In us, it actually is you. But I can't get past the like that it's something masquerading as me. You know?
I mean, yeah.
And that could be it. In us, you never know, you know? Like, but what were you going to say?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the whole imitating you thing, that's a different ball game.
So creepy.
I just feel like it would be... Well, the thing was, and I was telling Victoria this, is like I'm not immune to fear by any means or to scary movies, but like... me sitting and watching a scary movie, it's like I'm like, oh yeah, they did a good job of like, you know, producing the situation that triggers my emotional response. Like, whereas other people are like, that was so freaky. I'm just like, oh look, they did a decent job. You know, that was they had that jump scare. Like that was crazy. Like, like I don't know. Like the my favorite horror movie, I guess, was Hereditary.
Oh yeah,
that one was the only one where I was like, this is it. I'm in. This is like the horror movie of horror movies, where I actually had to stop that movie and not watch it for a little bit and come back to it. Like that was the only movie that's ever done that to me. Everything else, I'm like, it's a movie, whatever. It's like some people are like, oh, but this one movie, like it was so freaky. Like, what if that happened? I'm like, it's a movie. Chill out. Like, what are you doing? It's just a movie. Like, and I don't like, you know. So like if it gets scary or if it gets like situationally strange or whatever, like during Us, I was just watching it and I was like, I could just feel the tension and like the situational camera work and the music and everything. And I was just like, this is just so well done. Like, I wasn't like scared. I was just like, this is just great, and I could feel like the tension in me, but I wasn't like,
Yeah. There were only, because for me, there's only certain things that really freak me out. Like, obviously, yeah, the concept of that is like really scary in the sense of like, fuck, like, what would I even do in that situation? But there's only certain, there's mainly like visual things really get to me with movies. And I think that's why Hereditary was so impactful and so useful, is that the visuals were like, so like visceral, like so just horrifying, and not gory necessarily, just like so disturbing. And like I think in Us there were visuals that like really got me, like them standing in the driveway. That was, I was like, no. The kid, like the shadow of the young boy, like crawling away. No.
Yeah, he really liked crawling and scurrying
around.
Oh
my God. If anyone scurried at me, I'd kick him in the face. I hate crawling for sure. But yeah, I think that movies are really effective when they have like a scene or a concept where, well, I think more so a scene or like a visual that isn't gory, isn't graphic, isn't anything. It's just like there's something about it that is so like, oh, like,
Yeah.
And yeah, it just was really, really good. And I liked that it was creepy and it was stressful and tense, but I didn't feel overloaded by it either.
I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. I think I said in the last podcast, I don't really try to expect anything going in to a movie, because I just want to experience the movie. And I was sitting here thinking, I was like, well, it is kind of ironic that the first one we watch is like so good. Like I'm almost want to give it a 10 out of 10. I feel like 9 out of 10 easy, but because in some ways it's easier to talk about movies that are really bad, because you're like, and this part, but
there's honestly, it feels like there's more to analyze sometimes with a bad movie, because you're just like, what the hell was that?
And I feel like one of the good things that Us did was, like you were talking about with like horror movies and being gory and stuff like that, is just like, sometimes that's like what people just rely on.
Yeah.
Is like, I'm just going to be so fucking gory and gross. And it's like, this is just a gore fest. This isn't even scary. It's just not cool. And like, people don't know how to do it. But I felt like Us just had the perfect blend of like, this is creepy and scary and makes you think and whatever. And, that last like 1 minute where they do like the big reveal, which again I called, but I didn't know if they were going to do it because the movie waited till the last second to say it.
We talked about it, that we both kind of had like suspicions throughout the movie with certain things of like, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but
no, that's it.
That's
all I had.
Okay.
About that.
No, but like, I know that my first question was when we found out that she could talk. Well, not that she could talk, but that the shadow, I think her name was Red. I'm pretty sure they just call her Red. Like,
do they call her Red? They can't. Who do they?
No, like
the other shadows can't talk.
No, I know. I think where did I see that? I think I like had looked something up about it.
Oh, like and people in the real like world Red. Call her Red?
I don't know. Oh, I guess.
Okay. Let's call her Red.
Okay. So my first suspicion was, when she started talking and I was like, oh God, she sounds messed up. And then I realized that none of her family could talk. Like, none of the Shadow family could talk besides her. And I was like, but also she couldn't talk very well. It was like very like hoarse and quiet. But I was like, how does she know how to talk?
Right.
And no one else does. Everyone else is communicating. And the more shadows we met, the more it was like, I was like, maybe it's just her family can't talk. And then it was their friends' shadows couldn't talk and stuff like that. And so that was definitely the first part where I was like, oh, why can she talk and none of the others can? And I kind of had that, like, from the minute, I mean, I think that a lot of people probably, like, had the suspicion of, like, did they, like, switch? Because she came back, there was that flashback where, they were in the house and her parents were like, she's not the same. And like the therapist or whoever was like, it's trauma, whatever. And it's like,
right, yeah.
No, like they were like, basically, they were, I think she said something like, she's not my like little girl or whatever anymore. Like she was acting completely different.
Yeah.
And so I had a suspicion, but I was like, I don't know, like maybe, but, I think they did it so well. And like, even if you have that suspicion, you're kind of like, okay, well, but why? Like it didn't take away from the story. And I really like when movies don't try to like go too out of their way to deceive the audience, to be like, gotcha. Because sometimes it just gets so convoluted that it's like, honestly, it's better to have a more obvious ending if it's a better ending, or if it's a better plot twist or whatever.
Yeah.
Like you see it happen, especially with TV shows where like, they have an idea for the plot or like who the big bad is. And then on social media, people start guessing it and too many people guess it right. And so they change it and it doesn't make any sense. That's happened a couple times, at least with shows that I really enjoy. Yeah. Like I just like when, like, it's cool when you outsmart the audience, but like, don't go out of your way to do it. It's like,
well, I think that if you lead breadcrumbs and the thing about us is that it doesn't like lose any points for the fact that it had that twist and it was like pretty guessable. I think if anything, he gets points because I can just imagine him being like, I don't want to like make this bad, but like let's like push it all the way to the very last second so people are like, wait, did that happen? And then at the very last part of the movie, it's like, oh yeah, it did. Okay. I totally could have seen that coming. And yeah, that's crazy. Wow, great movie. But yeah, like if you just throw away the whole plan that you've got and then ruin your whole story, it's like people, when you're watching something and you figure it out, just let people figure it out and keep the story going. It's not going to take away from like, and that's Rian Johnson's problem. The guy who screwed up Star Wars, and made those horrible Knives Out movies, is like, his whole thing is like, he literally starts with a gotcha moment and then builds a piece of shit around it. And that was Star Wars episode 8 or whatever it was, or 9. Like, it's just like, oh, let's just make something really bad as a gotcha and then fill in all the space around it. And it's like, that is so like, there's no story when you do that. You're just some 8-year-old who's like desperate to get somebody to pull your finger and give him a gotcha moment. Like, it's just dumb. And so like, if people are like, I'm not pulling your finger because I see what's happening, you're like, oh, just kidding. How about this piece of gum? And then you shock them. It's like, the whole point was to do this other thing. Like, stop it. Like, what are you doing?
It's like a good plot twist isn't dictated by whether or not you saw it coming, I feel like.
No.
It can like make it even more intense when you're like, oh my God. But, I think that it doesn't really take away from it, because once you know the plot twist, you still love the piece of media if it was a good piece of media,
Right, yeah. And you just have to do it well.
Yeah, you have to do it well. It has to make sense. And like, it made sense. And yeah, there were breadcrumbs. And then especially when she went back into the like Hall of Mirrors and went through the like pushed the door open and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that was like the final nail in the coffin for me, where I was like, there's no fucking way she would know to do that. To like open that door. I was like, all right. Like, and that she was kind of like comfortable just like going down this very ominous looking escalator for no reason. Like, it's just, I was like, she knows where she's going.
Yeah.
Like, if you were a normal person who had never seen that before, you'd be like the whole time being like, where the fuck am I? Like, what is this? You know?
Yeah.
Because I think she had some amnesia about it and some like trauma of like blocking stuff out. But I think at the same time, it was like her subconscious like knew. I don't know. Because that's the part that I'm a little confused about, is if she knew or not.
Well, they made it. That was my question too, because like the whole point, like we kind of saw it coming, but the way the movie played it out was almost like she was remembering it at the end, which was like almost as if every time we went back to when she was a kid in the movie, which the opening scene is her as a kid having the traumatic event that leads to the whole movie happening or whatever. But like at the end, it's like, wait, were all those moments her getting back more and more of her memory?
Right.
And we're seeing her remember that she actually was the original Shadow that like traded places with the real girl? Or is it just a reveal to the audience and she knew this whole time and she was trying to make sure she never... That would explain why she didn't want to go... Well, the tricky thing is it works both ways, because if she just knew that she had that horrible experience there, that would explain why she didn't want to go back to the lake house where her family was, because she didn't want to go back to somewhere where she had a traumatic event. But it would also explain if she like knew how the whole Shadow Society worked, she wouldn't want to go back down there because she was afraid that they'd like get out or something, they'd come back to get her or whatever her mind invented. You know?
She said to her husband when she was like explaining what had happened to her, like that she saw another her. She was like, my entire life, I've felt like she was going to come after me. Like she was going to come, like try to find me.
I bet.
And I'm like, that sounds more like a guilty conscience thing to me, because it's like, why would she be out to get you?
Right.
Like just for seeing you once. It's kind of like, and again, maybe she didn't consciously know that she did something wrong, but I think definitely subconsciously she knew that there was a reason why this like duplicate of her would come after her, you know, like I don't know, but yeah, that part kind of was weird. Once the whole movie was over, I was like, oh yeah, she said that she always felt like she was gonna come find her, and like not for good reasons, you know, like to hurt her or something. And so yeah, it's like you can't help but wonder, being like, yeah, why would she want to hurt you after just meeting you once? It's like, no, if you forced her to stay in the tunnels, yeah, she'd want to come get you.
One thing that I kept thinking about was like, since she traded places, does that mean that the soul transferred to the who was originally a Shadow, who was then in the real world?
So
because like they said like only one has a soul. And so, like, basically to gain the soul, they were coming to the surface to kill all the real people so the Shadows could take over. Mm-hmm. And partially because that girl got switched, and she always knew she needed to come back to try and claim her place in the real world where she rightfully was born or whatever. But it got me thinking, like, you know, she had been on the surface. The Shadow had traded places and been on the surface, and she was like 8 or whatever it looked like she was. So as soon as they traded places, did the single soul transfer to her on the surface? Or like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So my interpretation, as I've like thought about it over the like week or whatever that we've had, my interpretation was that for some reason hers was reversed. Like the Shadow underneath had control of her, because it felt like that first scene where she's walking to the Hall of Mirrors, it felt like she was not in control of that moment.
Oh.
And so I felt like 'Cause so yeah, I don't know if there was a switch of the soul. I think that they were switched to begin with. And that's why the shadow had free will in the first place to switch places with her.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, like, it sounds like they're pretty mindless, the shadows,
right,
for the most part. And so none of the other ones would have thought to, like, go up the escalator and, like, go to the door and switch places, you know, that kind of thing. So I almost feel like I think it was, is it Adelaide? Adeline, something like that was her name.
Oh yeah, I totally forget.
Yeah, I think it was. I could be totally wrong, but their names weren't very important to the plot at all.
No.
But yeah, my guess is that for some accidental reason or something, she actually was the successful experiment.
Oh,
and so
yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, so the one underneath the surface had the free will to be like, I don't want to be here.
Yeah.
And switch places with her. And I think you can see that when they're I'm pretty sure was the scene with her at the dance, like the ballet recital, was that before or after they switched places?
I was literally just about to ask you that.
Because I'm pretty sure that...
I think it's after, because the shadow, who was the original girl, talks about, do you remember the dance? There was something spiritual that happened during that dance, which made me think that that happened after they'd switched.
Yeah.
And maybe even that the shadow, the original girl that went down to the shadow world, shadow tunnels, she basically forgot that they switched too, because she didn't realize, she didn't mention once that like she was trying to take her place back necessarily. She just said she was there to free all the shadow people.
Right.
She didn't make it this thing of like, you screwed me over when we were kids, I want my place back. She just seemed to make it like, I'm freeing all these people who are down here, and this whole thing's fucked up. It was almost like she didn't admit that they had switched. It's like only the shadow who took over seemed to remember that. Does that make sense?
I thought she remembered, and that's why the whole thing happened, because she hyperfixated on the hands across the world, or across the US or whatever, hands across America. She had the t-shirt. She like made it this whole thing and all of that. Like it definitely, it felt like she at least remembered the surface.
Right.
I don't know if she remembered everything, but she knew there was a surface. None of the other shadows did. Right. So she was the kind of the like spark of the rebellion of like, there's more to life than being down here, you know, whatever.
I would want to go back and hear her monologue. Her two monologues again. I was gonna say this movie's definitely worth a rewatch, because you don't get everything the first time, because there's like the two monologues that she has aren't like super overt, but they're like pretty like to the point of like, here's what's happening and here's the lore. And those parts almost rubbed me the wrong way, because I was like, it happened twice where we just get these long monologues of like, here's everything that happened. And you're like, okay, you know, whatever. But the way it kind of makes more sense to have those monologues, because now I'm curious exactly what she says in each of them, because it's her perspective. It's not necessarily like info dumping on the audience, stuff that you need to know. It's more like convoluted than that. And so I'd be super interested, because it makes sense that she would obviously remember the surface, and that she would have that like, but that's the thing, is like, does she have a traumatic memory lodged from that with repressed memories? And so she doesn't know why, but she knows that she needs to, or no, I mean, it would make more sense if she just remembered the surface and was trying to come back and was breaking the spell or whatever. But I don't know.
Well, and that she knew that she was a shadow, because I'm kind of like, I don't even know if the people underneath like knew that they were.
Yeah, that was just their reality.
Yeah, like I think she was the only one who actually knew, and so I found I can like read the monologues if you want to like read them, or we can just watch
No.
again.
Well, I think you're right that she remembered, because that would make more sense. As far as like, I don't know. That's the thing is, and that's why I think it's great, is because it's like it makes you think about exactly what happened, and what the whole motivation was.
I will say that first monologue that she did, where like they were meeting for the first time and she was basically explaining what a shadow even was. Like,
Yeah.
you know, you had a baby, I had a baby. You married this guy. I am tethered to him forever. You know, whatever. She said at the very end, so you see, the shadow hated the girl so much for so long until one day the shadow realized she was being tested by God. So she did know about the surface girl and hated her.
Right.
And wanted to.
Because she had switched places with her.
Yeah, and then. Yeah, we were born special. God brought us together that night. I never stopped thinking about you. How things could have been. How you could have taken me with you. Yeah. Very interesting.
But see, that's misleading, right? Which is why it's so confusing, because the shadow says that. How you could have taken me with you.
Right.
But she was the one who got taken down to the shadow realm. So it's almost like she's speaking from the place of being a shadow.
Right.
And it was almost like, why didn't you take me with you to back to your family?
Right.
Which makes me think that in her mind, she's always been the shadow. Like, she's forgotten that, like, she knows parts and maybe has that motivation, but like forgot that they switched.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's just generous misdirection on the part of the writing to not give too much away before the reveal at the end. But
could be.
I think that's why part of why I'm confused, because I was like, I felt like she just, I don't know. Does that make sense for why I'm thinking all that?
I think there's quite a few parts of the movie I think that we've discussed where we're kind of like, wait, but also this, you know, like,
yeah.
I think that there are some parts that are kind of up to, I think almost the entire movie, I think, is up to interpretation.
Well, and that's
like,
what makes it so good.
Yeah. We haven't even like really touched on the whole like class issue that it's really illustrating as well.
Oh,
you know, and like how, you know, upper class people get pretty disturbed when I think they're disturbed by the quality of life that the lower class has. Not willing to change it for them, though. Not willing to like help, but also seeing themselves in them. Like, this is just another person. I could have easily been the one that was poor instead of rich. Like, there was nothing that at least was clarified in the movie that dictated which one was the real one and which one was the shadow. It was just, you were just flip of a coin. You're the one who lives in the sewers versus you're the one who lives on the surface, you know? And like, with being wealthy or being poor, it's like a lot of times that's how it feels. It's like, I could easily be on the other side of this, you know? Like, there's, you know, obviously life circumstances happen.
I could
but
easily be rich.
for the most part, I think it's more of like rich people being like, wow, I could be the one starving on the street. Like, what in my life really significantly was different from this other human being that we really aren't that different? And I think that that's really scary to like think about. I mean, even us, you know, it's like, we're not wealthy by any means, but in the grand scheme of the world, we're very wealthy. Mm-hmm. We're very privileged, you know? And so it's like me and someone in another country aren't very different. It just so happened I was born here and they were born there. That's the only thing that separated me from them.
Yeah.
And that's terrifying to think about. You know, in especially like Middle Eastern countries where women don't really have too many rights. You know, it's like nothing stopped me from being her other than being born here instead. like being born above ground instead of in the tunnel, you know? Like, and I think that I really liked that kind of perspective of it too, because I think there is something to be said about, you know, your own shadow, self-reflection, that kind of thing. But the class issue of it too was just like, I think it was done so well, and it was just so, it was like really sad, because it was like they're no different. They just have this significantly worse life for what seems like no real reason, you know? But that there's no feasible way for them to be brought to the surface. Like, you know, like with, you know, less fortunate people, it's like, well, we can't just, like, that's not how the economy works. We can't just give people money and give them homes, you know, at least with the system that we have. It's like, that would cause a whole other myriad of issues, you know? Even if we wanted to, it'd be really hard to figure it out. And kind of like in this case, it's like, well, they are their shadow. So if everyone learned of these people and how horrible the conditions were and decided to bring them up to the surface, that wouldn't fix the problem. Like, there would be different problems to fix, you know, if the shadows were brought up to the surface. Because then there'd be two of everyone, and they would still be the shadow. Like, they would, you know, only one of them can have the soul type thing. So I really liked that part.
Yeah.
And the fact that they had to eat rabbits is like, you know, rabbits are like the main animal that's tested on for literally like any cosmetic, any, you know, rats are too, of course, but rabbits are a huge one. Like, rabbits are the symbol of like animal testing. And so I just thought it was kind of ironic that they had to eat, you know, rabbits when they were pretty much the, you know, test rabbits as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, the long forgotten. I wonder how long in the world they'd been down there.
Yeah, I don't know. I wondered about that.
And, you know, living in like how many generations worth of, it was probably the 60s. That's when everything crazy happened.
Yeah. Honestly, that makes sense. All the weird
started.
government testing. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it, and I love the like symbolism in movies. I love when a movie is very well done, but I love even more like the message that it's trying to tell a lot of the time, and not so much that there's like a clear cut message, but that it like opens your mind up to thinking about an issue in a different way, you know, or like just a concept in a different way, you know. That yeah, instead of thinking of like, you know, I don't know. I think there's just a lot of ways that you can think about it. And I really like the class way of going with it, like the wealth disparity and stuff. But I also really like the kind of inner self-reflection and how the shadow can be really scary, you know?
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. And how it is just kind of like, you know, you on the outside are in control. Like your normal, sane self is like in control doing everything. And that your shadow is kind of just in you, just kind of having to do whatever you want it to do. You know, it never has the reins, basically.
Right.
And if it did, that'd be really scary and bad, you know, that kind of thing. If you solely relied on like your ego and like just your impulses and, you know, all of that, like, you know, it's always in there. It's just you have more willpower than it. So you're kind of, you know, it's just kind of having to stay in the subway system of your soul.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, 10 out of 10, pretty much as far as I'm concerned. I don't know. I always feel weird giving something like a perfect score, but I mean, you know, what is that when they grade papers in school? based on the highest score.
Oh,
Like the highest score was a 61 because the teacher sucks dick. So he's
not
like
standardized. What is it called?
adjusted
Weighted.
or weighted testing,
I don't
weighted
know.
scoring.
It's not weighted.
Like you're a really bad teacher. Nobody did well on the test. High score is a 61. Lowest
What's
score
it
was a
called?
14. So the 61 turns to 100.
Oh my god, we have to look
You
it
know?
up. It's gonna drive me nuts. I gotta know.
Well, how do I even look it up? What is it called when a teacher adjusts all the test scores based on the highest score, parentheses, which was low. Grade curve. Grading on a curve.
I don't think that's what I.
Yeah, so
What is the term for adjusting test scores?
to adjust scores that our students received on a test. So like
For
boost the
test
student's
score?
grade by moving them up because
Yeah.
so
Cumulative grading.
I don't know if that's it. That doesn't. It's curving the grade. I'm grading on a curve. That's what it is.
I know. I'm just saying that it was called something else in school for me, and so it's gonna really bug me that I can't remember what they called it.
Maybe you switched with your shadow because I think this was always what it was called.
Well, grading on a curve, absolutely, but there's like almost like a slang term. I'm pretty sure of
I
what
don't
it's
know.
called, but
All I'm saying is I'm so hesitant to give a score like a perfect 10 out of 10 score, but I don't even see why we shouldn't give us a 10 out of 10. I think it was like a 10 out of 10.
I would give literally like the only thing that really
what's your
bugged
thing?
me.
It bugged you. We didn't talk about
The
this.
husband. We talked about it at the beginning. I was
What-
like, this
what
man
bugged
is the
you?
most oblivious. Like, this man is not a real person.
Yes. No. That's no.
It just got to me. I was like, no husband would see their wife in that much distress and be like, "Oh, I'm just a goofball." Like, it was a little weird. That was my only thing, and it was so minimal that it doesn't really matter. But like, it did take me out of it because I was like, this is not a real reaction to her being like visibly so not okay.
Well, I think he was oblivious. I totally agreed with you that he was oblivious. My thing was that he doesn't know he's in a horror movie, and so
Yeah.
so that's something we know that he doesn't. B, it felt like to me he was at first it felt like he was intentionally ignoring it to try and make her feel better instead of like because he just kept being funny or kept being whatever instead of kind of like whatever. But the other thing is we don't have information on before the trip happened, so we don't know because she was like just super anxious since the movie started.
Yeah.
So it was like maybe he was trying to be like, this doesn't happen. I'm gonna keep pretending like it's normal, and then if like something happens, we could talk about it. But yeah, he definitely was oblivious, and then especially when he got in bed and was like, "Let's get freaky."
Yeah, that part.
That part was where it was really like, okay, dude, like
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I will say I'm absolutely 100% certain there is a non-zero amount of men out there who are that oblivious and get married. So I don't think it's that unrealistic. But that
it
also
could definitely happen. But
I feel like that was part of his character type, though, was I'm trying to be funny. I'm the goofy dad. I'm going to do what I got to do. And I just felt like that was part of his character. But if there's any flaw, I think you're right. I think especially once they got in the bedroom, I think that was the biggest one.
Maybe his character is like,
Maybe you were just mad that he wasn't consoling her.
Yeah,
and that's
I was
why
like,
I bothered you.
hello.
Like, can you not see that she is in pain? Help this woman.
There was just like, it was so, he was so belittling of her. It kind of made me mad. At the first point,
Yeah.
I was like, LOL, he's just like dumb. He's just like, he's just being funny and he's like lighthearted, kind of like childlike. And then it got to a point where I was like, he's just being an asshole to her. Like, this is kind of like very belittling of her issues. And I was like,
well,
okay.
And I felt like there could have been some sort of character indication that he was actively, like, to indicate whether he was like actually super oblivious, or like whether he was just trying to lighten the mood and was aware that she was in that mood. Also, there was the part where the family was standing outside and he went outside to be like, get out of here. What are you doing? And you were like, no one would do that. And I was like, they don't know. They're in a horror movie. I was like, I would do that. I'd be like, yo, get out of here. Who are you? You know? But then when he kept going, when he went back out and when everything kept happening, I was like, that I wouldn't do. But I did also appreciate that they weren't just scared from the get-go. Like, she was freaked out because of because of the shadow people and because she was already on edge and whatever. And then, but he was totally oblivious, obviously, because that's his character, apparently.
Yeah.
But because that's one thing that I actually really liked, because people just don't always immediately get super scared in real life. And in movies, they're like, oh, what's happening? And it's like, no, some guy would probably be like, yo, come here. I'm going to show you what's up.
Yeah.
Get off my property. And then realize, oh, wait, this is not a normal situation. Maybe we should figure something else out, you know?
Yeah. Well, it concerned me, and I just realized it, like, in this moment, like, where you were like, you're not immediately like freaked out about things, and I'm like, I am.
Right, and I'm not.
And
so
a lot of women are.
Yeah.
Like, because we have to be.
Right.
Like, we have to be suspicious of everything, right? And so, like, when I was like, I would never do that, it's like, oh, yeah, because I'm not supposed to be the one doing that.
Right.
You know, I'm supposed to be the one that's like, that's suspicious, or
grab
that's,
the kids,
you know,
get to the deepest center of the house.
Yeah, like,
everyone be safe.
You know,
Dad's
it's
gonna
like,
go take care of it.
It's not no, especially when there's just like any man involved, even a single man. I'm like, nope. Or if a woman is acting suspicious, I'm like, there's a man somewhere waiting to nab me. You know, like, he's behind this, you know, because that's what happens, you know, and you can never be too careful.
I liked it. And besides the whatever sort of soft magic system with the tethering of the shadow people, besides that, I felt like everything was super realistic.
Where'd they get the scissors?
That part
I just thought of that.
That part doesn't make as much sense. Well, and they all had the same clothes after a while. So she planned it somehow. And so I think we're assuming
Amazon Prime, some red uniforms
before. Well, that one guy on the beach, maybe he had already killed his shadow. He had already
killed his,
He had went first before a lot of the other people.
Yep.
But yeah, that is kind of like a little plot hole, I think.
Yeah. Oh, and now that we've watched the whole movie, I want to look up that Bible verse again. The something 11:11.
Yeah, Jeremiah 11:11. 11:11. Yeah, so the homeless guy in the movie has this on his cardboard that he's holding up to people.
Oh, and I also thought that, so there was 11:11 for the verse and 11:11 on the clock. And I thought that was interesting because it's like 1 and 1 is a shadow, or like 1 is the shadow of 1, but then it's the shadow of the shadow. Like it's a shadow within a shadow, like 11 and 11, and a duplicate of the duplicate.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord, behold, I will bring evil upon them, which they shall not be able to escape. And though they shall cry unto me, I will not hearken unto them.
Can you give me a translation of that?
From English to what? Chinese?
No, just like kind of like with like Shakespeare. Like, I'm really good at translating Shakespeare, you know.
If you want an easy one, just always get the NIV. Therefore, this is what the Lord says: I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Although they cry out to me, I will not listen to them.
Ah.
Yeah.
Is that like hinting at the this is like a what am I trying to say? Like a crime against humanity that God's like, I won't even help you with this.
For what? For the
like,
movie?
Creating the duplicates was such a horror that like God's like, I will not help you with this. Like when the duplicates like came to the surface and stuff.
I mean, whenever people use Bible verses in movies, especially horror movies, I always just assume they're trying to be edgy.
I will bring on them a disaster they cannot escape. Oh, well, and so because she said that God, like she thought that God brought them together and stuff. Like she was very religion heavy. The duplicate, the shadow.
The original shadow?
Yeah, she was like, God brought us together. God did this.
No, that was what the original girl who became the shadow said.
Okay, so yeah, the one that lived underground.
As an adult. They both lived underground.
Okay, as an adult, she lived, the one who lived underground more.
Yes.
She
was religious.
She mentioned God a lot.
Yes, she did. Maybe it's because she saw Jeremiah 11:11 right before she got taken to the shadow tunnels.
Could be.
And maybe she found a Bible down there.
Was he God?
No, he was a normal person with a shadow who got killed.
I know, but how is it that he started it? Like, he was the first one to do it. Like, why?
Maybe he was just excited because he's so fond of Jeremiah 11:11. I don't know.
Yeah. I just love that 11. I thought of this the other day, that 11 is a duplicate of a duplicate, or like a twin of a twin. Like the 1 and 1 is a twin, and then the 1 1 1 1 is a twin.
I mean, whenever I see stuff like this, I think Jordan Peele just got really excited that there was an 11:11 that was a mirror that had to do with evil stuff that he could just throw in his movie. That's whenever I see stuff like that, I'm always like, they just,
Can we look it up?
What?
Jeremiah 11:11 us, to see if he ever commented on it.
Just talking about themes of
punishment,
the absence of mercy.
Ah, cool. Yeah. Also, that's a messed up verse. What the hell? God's just like, I'm not helping you.
Normally, you gotta read the context, so you'd probably have to read all of Jeremiah 11 to realize what the context where they were talking. Because, if you just pick one Bible verse out, it usually can kind of make sense, but not really.
Right.
So I'm sure something was happening that, it makes more sense in context of like whatever that chapter is. But yeah. I mean, that's.
Well, and was Hands Across America, was it poverty that they were like fighting against? They might have said it at the beginning of the movie.
Public fundraising in 1986. 15 minutes in an attempt to form the chain. What was the purpose? Fight poverty and hunger.
Oh, on the nose. On the nose for the class issue.
Yeah.
Cool.
There's a cow involved. Look at this.
Was money raised because the whole hands thing seems
unsanitary? People in 2020 were crying about this.
I don't want to be.
People were that close.
I don't want to be like an asshole and pessimistic, but I'm like, what is that doing?
Well, it's a public demonstration to raise awareness. People, it's something to raise awareness, and the idea is when you raise awareness, people take notice and do something. Not everybody, but
Yeah. Oh well.
5 million people took part, which is crazy.
Let's see.
When was Jordan Peele born, real quick? Because I feel like he's been planning this since this happened. He probably lived through it and was like, "Yo, I gotta."
He definitely lived.
Make a movie about this.
1979,
so that he'd be seven when that happened.
Yeah.
So this is us. We got the shadow Jordan Peele. This is a real story. This is just a biopic.
He's so good at movies.
Yeah. Wow.
I wanted to look up, was Hands Across America was it a success? Was it a failure? Was it like, do people have comments on it, Because I wonder if that's like part of it is that it like I'm almost wondering like did it
failed to make a chain from coast to coast.
Okay, well, you know, how can you expect
Arkansas dropped the ball. Thanks a lot.
Oh God, of course
Arizona
it was Arkansas.
Couldn't cut it either.
Arizona makes sense. Arkansas does not.
I mean,
For
think about
Africa. Oh. It's for Africa, not in America.
USA for what? We're the world.
Oh, so it's because his movies tend to have like a race like undertone.
Oh yeah,
and so that totally makes sense now. Well, I mean, a lot of it made sense before, but it's just interesting too. Oh, okay. Hold their place in line, $10 each, $15 million for charities. That's pretty good.
15 million raised. Not a lot. So it says raised 34 million total. Oh, and net 15 was distributed.
Yeah.
So less than half. So a bunch of people cut into that. Featured in Michael Jackson's song "Cry."
It's a good song.
Yeah, it doesn't say a lot about it.
Yeah, I just wasn't as sure if it like. Yeah, if it was like, yeah, we tried to... The creepy event. It was not creepy, guys.
Vanity Fair article. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty crazy that that was the way that they were gonna... I mean, that's such an 80s thing. Like, let's make a huge chain from coast to coast.
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
Not to mention that their shadows seemed to be pretty opposite to them. Like at least the other shadows, like I noticed like the daughter especially like never smiled, but her duplicate was smiling like all the time. It was really creepy.
Mm-hmm.
And like it seemed like they were also kind of mirror like the same but opposite at the same time. Like it just seems, I don't know.
I mean, there's definitely something here.
It seems like such an
to relate
80s
with
thing. Let's see. In terms of raising awareness, sure. Yeah. It cost the same amount. Nothing like this had been tried before, and I think that's what made it so great.
Well,
dark side of the event. Sorry. Hands across.
Yeah. Okay. What?
Sorry, just Jordan Peele couldn't agree more, though, of course. He also saw a dark side to the event. Hands Across America was this idea of American optimism and hope, and Ronald Reagan style, we can get things done if we just hold hands. I just love it. It's a great gesture, but you can't actually cure hunger and all that. See, I had that's the reaction I had at the beginning. I didn't want to be like an asshole, but I was like, that's not going to do anything.
See, I think Jordan Peele just has the horror gene in him.
He does.
Because he saw people getting together to try and help people, whatever the real motivation was or whatever it was. He saw that and was like, that's fucking scary. He saw Michael Jackson singing and people holding hands and was like, I'm creeped out.
Well, yeah, I mean, because hypothetically, like, you know, if you're told, like, hey, what if we all held hands, like, around the country? That's like, oh, that's such a sweet idea. But then you actually, like, see the visual of it and you're like, oh, that is making me feel weird. Like, there's something about, like, an organized thing like that, yeah, when he portrayed it in the movie, it was really creepy.
Yeah.
I was like,
and to his point, what are we? I mean, you know, what are we supposed to do to help everybody else in the world who's poor?
Yeah.
You know, like one at a time, whatever. I mean, of course, it's the movie's like kind of racial, kind of cultural, kind of classist, kind of poverty, whatever, like all that stuff rolled into, you know, and that's what he does. That's what Jordan Peele's known for, is kind of being like, makes amazing art and puts his cultural lens and consciousness into it to make you think and to hopefully open your eyes, and which is great. But it's like yeah, I mean, what is everybody supposed to do to help everybody else, and I'm sure being, because I'm like, yeah, duh, like that's dumb to try and think that we could all just help everybody else in the world. So like, but I'm just like thinking about like being alive in the 80s. Like it probably was a weird time, and people were probably like, gee golly whiz, guys, we can help the world like this.
Honestly, sometimes I envy the 80s.
Is that what the 80s were like?
Like,
I mean, don't. Have you seen their hair?
Well, no, I
just like freaked out walking around.
I am the first to hate on the 80s. All right, like I have before. I feel like we've talked about it, at least at work. I was like, I hate the 80s. Like everyone wants it like making a comeback, and I'm like, no, leave it there. But
people are trying to make a comeback from the 80s.
Oh, so many things from the 80s are coming back into trend.
80s was like the most disrespectful disregard for anybody except for whatever you wanted to do. Time.
It was the decade of like capitalism, like full blown, like horrible capitalism. I would not want to go back, but I do envy the
ignorance right before everything got really fucked up.
Yes, I do. I envy it.
Where they're like, oh wait, all the shit we're doing is fucking everything up.
I envy the like, oh man, let me just go to the mall with my friends and drink a Coca-Cola, like
Yeah.
Like
let me buy all these one-use plastics and all this crazy shit.
Let me use my credit card. That just
all the debt
and all the hairspray.
People weren't smart enough to figure out debt back then.
Yeah. But yeah, like it's honestly, I feel like the 80s, especially with analog horror's been very big lately.
Aren't those websites that you?
I'm a huge analog horror fan.
Well, you gotta explain
anyone listening. It's basically it's a form of horror told through an analog form of media. So VHS tapes, any like outdated media. So normally it's VHS tapes, but it could be radio, it could be old telephone calls, it could be letters, it could be whatever. But normally analog horror is analog is normally like a old form of technology. So it's analog with the UG or the UE at the end, which I think is technically the same thing. If you scroll down, like, what do you mean by analog? So interesting.
An analog is usually something for something else. Like this is an analog for, like us is an analog for classism. And then analog, as far as the other one, is usually means
it's so like analog, if you look up like analog versus digital, like right down here. So yeah, it's basically like with technology there's a difference between something like an analog clock and a digital clock.
Yeah, I think that what you're referring to is the shorthand people use, where analog is something that's like sturdier and older, whereas digital is like new and iPhone and stuff.
Yeah, it's not actually, I don't think it's actually like the,
because it says analog is a continuous electrical signal and a digital is a non-continuous electrical signal. So you're talking about continuous electrical signal horror, right?
So like if you want, you can look up analog horror too.
Okay, yeah,
but yeah, it's using analog as the form of analog that most people are familiar with. Like, yeah, when you say
this whole conversation is analog,
a piece of technology is analog.
So low fidelity.
So yeah, low fidelity graphics, cryptic messages,
reminiscent, sort of nostalgic, outdated technology stuff.
Yeah. And so Local 58, Marble Hornets, all awesome. What else? God, of course I'm gonna blank on all of them. The Mandela Catalog, Monument Mythos.
Didn't you have one that you were saying, and it was like a website where you click on stuff?
Welcome Home. Welcome Home is a new one that's coming out that I've been following. And that one, I don't know. That one is definitely analog horror, but I'd say it's more, because there's some stuff that's like old vintage from the 70s and stuff. But for the most part, it's closer to an ARG, which is an alternate reality game.
Right. Also, notably here, it says it usually incorporates some aspect of found footage.
Yes. Yeah, lots of found footage. Which is where a lot of the
VHS style stuff would come from.
Yes. So what I was going to say from all of that is it makes a lot of sense. There's a lot of reasons that analog is so creepy to people, like analog horror, just VHS tapes, that kind of stuff. But I think part of it, too, is like the time that it came from is a time where like people didn't know yet. Like that sounds really vague, but just people didn't know yet. Like, and I mean, people didn't know how fucked up shit was going to be. People didn't know what was going to happen. It like a lot of that world was very wholesome compared to now. And I don't mean, obviously, there have been horrors throughout time, all the wars, all the terrible things that have happened. But it was the last time we didn't experience what like literally a digital age brought, all of the fear and all of the things that brought. And so I do wonder if the 80s are because all I'm saying is the 80s are used in horror so often, and horror was really big in the 80s too.
Oh yeah.
And I like
things were too good, they had to scare themselves.
Yeah, and so
things were good for white people.
Yeah, let's clarify. But only if you were straight though. I don't remember exactly how it went, but I think I've heard that there was like a period of time where black neighborhoods weren't like dangerous and crazy like we think of now with like guns and drugs and stuff. They were basically just poor and out of the way, which was like still not good, but then there was like what was it? Was it the 80s with the crack epidemic and when like shit really started heading downhill in black communities? Yeah, because once slavery had ended, this is very surface level knowledge. Like, but when slavery ended, there started to be integration, but obviously until like the 60s, there was still a lot of racism, a lot of segregation, that kind of stuff.
Right, yeah.
But if I remember correctly, a little bit before that, black neighborhoods and just black communities had started to really thrive, and do really well and make a lot of money and be very like independent. It was like they were really making a living, and a lot of these families seemed like they were, gonna be like just as successful or even more successful than their white counterparts.
Yeah.
And white people burned those neighborhoods down.
I've heard that before. And then the one that people always talk about is there was like basically the crack epidemic, which was not by accident.
Yes.
Along with like dangerous, explicit music, which was intentionally popularized as a collusion with prisons to basically promote behavior that keeps the prison industry thriving.
Right.
Have you heard of that one?
I have heard of that one. Yeah, that like glorifying committing crimes.
Yeah.
Because prisons are basically the closest thing we have to slavery. With how like, because it's not necessarily. I don't think anyone wants people to just be in prison for the sake of being in prison. It's the fact that they can pay these people like 10 cents an hour to do labor that normally on the outside would be way more. Like, I really do think that prisons and the prison system is like they're just exploiting people because they can get cheap labor. Like that's my main
part
thing.
Of it. But as a normal citizen, you want prisons to keep all the really dangerous and fucked up people off the streets after they commit horrible fucking crimes, and you can prove that they're horrible fucking people.
Right.
That's why we want prisons.
Yeah.
The problem is, I forget when, but basically all the prison systems went private. And so if a sector becomes private, then it's incentivized by profit. And so to basically create as much profit as possible, they were subsidized by the government, and they're paid by how many inmates they have.
Yeah.
So the story goes that they started paying off basically rappers and other people to basically promote, fucked up activity that would help get more people in jail, which would boost their fucking profits. And that's something I've heard. It's whatever. But prisons are fucking private, and so they are incentivized to try to get people in jail because they get more people in more money for each person who's in jail.
Yeah.
Instead of it being some sort of public service, which, if you're disenchanted with our government, like a lot of people are right now, you don't even trust them with that, really. But they also do get like half a cent every 3 days or whatever to work, for prison stuff. But yeah, it's not rehabilitation or, keeping people who get life sentences off the streets or whatever. It is more that's, the prison industrial complex. So
yeah. Well, and so much of it is, all the systemic stuff, all of that. And yeah, there was the whole, like the crack epidemic for sure. Getting especially young men hooked on crack. And of course the incentive of welfare, being a single mother has a lot of financial incentive.
Again, the incentive, follow the incentives.
Yeah. Follow the incentives. It's all crazy. And all of that was going on in the 80s. And meanwhile, there's that underbelly of awful stuff going on. And meanwhile, there was, all of the glorified parts of the 80s. Everything was beautiful and vibrant.
And Jordan
fun.
Peele was just like, what is real life?
Yeah, Jordan Peele was
I'm
like...
going to grow up and make horror movies.
Yeah.
This is fucked up.
Well, it is super interesting that he was the same age as... pretty much the same age as her at the time. And like...
Yeah, that's true.
It must have impacted him in some way.
Clearly.
That was very... not good.
That wasn't sarcastic. I just meant...
no, I didn't.
Which,
no
again,
shit. No.
for you and I specifically, I had no idea that people stood across America. I knew about the We're the World Michael Jackson collab with all the big artists or whatever, but I had no idea that was a real thing. But some of the stuff people make nowadays looks so real that you could invent something from the 60s. We watched the Black Phone in theaters, that movie, which was set ironically in Denver in what,
like
70s?
Yeah.
And it looked like people just took our quality cameras to the 70s and made a movie.
Yeah, it was super well done.
So crazy.
Convincing.
So I had no idea that the Hands Across America thing actually fucking happened.
Yeah. Well, and you see it with the analog horror stuff all the time. Like, so much of it, I'm like, this could have easily been a VHS tape from the 80s or whatever. Yeah. Like, it's super easy now to make things that look old, which is so funny that like we're trying to make things look old. I know. But yeah, when it played, when the movie started and had the Hands Across America thing, I was like, is my brain fabricating a memory right now, or do I remember this happening? Like, and it wasn't that I was obviously like there watching it, but I remember hearing about it and like learning about it or something. And so yeah, when I like saw it, I was like, am I just thinking I remembered this? But then I looked it up after and I was like, oh no, okay, it did actually happen. Because I was like, am I going crazy? Like, do I just want to think it happened? But
well, and it's cool that became sort of an integral part of the whole movie, and that's part of the symbolism of the scissors is the mirror and the cutting of the chain of people. Yeah.
Well, and the tether between you and your shadow. Yeah. Like they basically, the shadows were like cutting the tether between you by killing you, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, just funny.
Where did they get all the golden scissors?
Yeah, those were nice ass scissors too.
Well, I wouldn't say it's like a problem. They were really nice, and they had those gloves too, which seemed useless.
Yeah, why on one hand?
I don't know, but maybe it's a scissor cutting thing that if you cut with scissors a lot.
Is it to like hold Hands? Is it hand holding?
Who knows? But the one thing that like kind of got to me a tiny bit, I forgot because we started talking about scissors. It'll come back to me. But
we were talking about Hands Across America, that it actually happened. Talking about
it's gone.
Dang it. Yeah, there are a couple things where I have questions, but they're not bad enough that like I can't just like buy in and just suspend my disbelief of like where they get the scissors. It's like it doesn't really matter. Like it's not that integral to the plot. It's just kind of a creepy thing that they have, and it's more symbolic rather than literal for the story. Like it's not like they literally, like it doesn't matter where they literally got the scissors. It's like it matters that they are there as a symbol of like this. They're literally stabbing their like surface world people to like sever that tie between the two.
Right. And it came back to me. The basically like when they kill that one twin girl and then she comes back, she was like pretty thoroughly dead. She was pretty thoroughly killed for a normal human.
Yeah, on the table. Yeah.
Well, she'd been like hit over the head how many times and all this stuff, and then fell and then was totally destroyed by that table. And then she's up and she's alive again.
Right.
And so that was the only thing where I was like, what does it take for them to get killed? If they're literally these shadows, what is rabbit meat really that, that amazing of sustenance that it just changed their DNA? Like what about this makes it so, like, what does it require to actually kill them? Right. You know what I mean? Because they're clearly not just human, because any other human would be dead.
Yeah.
So, like,
well, and that one felt, to me, it felt more like just
horror stuff.
Yeah, just like kind of
stuff.
Like a cheap scare, of like, oh, she comes back and one of them's gone.
They come, well, because I started thinking like, oh, can you not kill them? Like,
right.
Are they diff? Like, what is? So that was my thing where I was like, wait a second, like what? At what point did these guys actually die? That's when I started thinking, well, is it like that they have to get killed with the scissors? Does that mean that they have to? Do they have to get killed that way for them to actually die? Because if the surface world person dies, they take over the soul role or whatever on the above ground world. I don't know. That was the only thing where I was like, it seemed a little unnecessary, and like you said, probably just kind of like, it's scary, like deal with it.
Yeah. Well, the husband killed his shadow with the boat motor.
Well, but they said that. He said that, and then they did that, and then it was like that girl came back. And so I was like, so what?
I know.
And then when the daughter shadow flew into the forest and got like impaled in the tree or whatever, then she dies.
Yeah.
She like the mom like waited there till she was dead.
Yeah.
But in my mind I was like, we just watched them get up. Like she's going to get up, right? Like
right.
What's the big whoop? Like,
yeah.
So that's when I was like, but I guess the other thing was nobody survived except for them.
Right.
That was the other thing where I was thinking about post this movie. They're going to live in a world with people who don't know how to speak.
Well, but it's only in America.
Was it?
Yeah.
Why?
I'm like,
is that why she wanted to go to Mexico?
Probably. I don't think she knew. But
she was just like, let's go somewhere far away.
Well, yeah, because it was
Mexico,
so that because it didn't seem like the shadows in general were interested in killing everyone. It was specifically like, I want to kill mine. It was just, it so happened.
Of course.
So yeah, I think they were kind of like, as long as we get away from ours that are looking for us, like we'll at least be a little more safe.
Well, and was it only the local shadows from that part of California where that one shadow taught all the other shadows how to kill people and wear cool clothes and have scissors? Or was it, all of America? Or
that's a good question. Was it like a contained experiment to one part, or
did it expand
the entire
naturally? They unleashed some supernatural presence in the tunnels of America?
I guess we'll never know.
I don't think it's important. I think
the symbolism is more so important, but I totally get where you're coming from.
That's the cool part is that's why I feel like it probably should get a 10 is because like the stuff that matters got 110 out of 10.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah,
I think that was the really cool part.
Yeah. I think it was really, really, really well done. Very entertaining to watch. Very creepy. Yeah. I want to watch Hereditary again for this podcast. And at the same time, I don't want to. I've seen it once and that was enough. Like I don't need to. It was so good. It was so good, but I'm like,
oh yeah.
Do I need to watch that again? Like
I felt like Hereditary was a big win as far as a movie. Like super disturbing, total warning before you watch it. Try and get as mentally prepared as possible.
It's pretty
because I just
rough.
watched it and it was like, oh shit, this is like the only movie I ever had to like stop watching.
Yeah, it's not only disturbing, it's sad, and it's like it's so it makes you it's so deep in a lot of ways that it's not just making you feel scared, it's making you feel sad and like defeated and angry and like it's like all the emotions, all of them.
But I thought that movie was excellent, but it was like what he was trying to do like with Midsummer, but I felt like Midsummer was more like mindless gore / what was the one almost like Killing of a Sacred Deer, where we're getting this weird info like if we knew more it might make more sense, but like it kind of just was dumb. That's a personal opinion. I know it's really popular. I am very comfortable having unpopular opinions. That's kind of my thing. But I just felt like after watching Midsummer, I was like, there wasn't a redeemable thing here at the end where it was like, this is resolved and I understand the movie. Like, not like it has to be good. Like, the good guys have to win because that's not how Hereditary goes. Yeah. But it just felt like at the end, I was like, I just felt like you did that for fun. Like, it wasn't...
I think it got away with a lot of the plot issues because it was the cinematography was so beautiful.
Incredible. I will give it that.
I think it distracted people from how much the plot did not make sense.
See, that's the thing, because I say that about stuff and I feel like sometimes I feel like people just want to like something for whatever part of it they like. Like with the Star Wars Episode 8, I think a lot of people think like I do. And yeah, it's Episode 8. A lot of people think like I do that it was just a bad movie, and it was compounded by the incredible legacy of Star Wars. So to make a movie that bad with Star Wars with source material was just like a slap in the face, you know? But people liked it because they wanted to like Star Wars, and there were new Star Wars coming out, and there were lightsabers, and they just wanted to just see lightsabers and cool Star Wars shit happen. Yeah. And that movie that filled that need for them. They didn't want to look further than that.
Nostalgia can like blind people a lot.
Yeah. And Knives Out too. I felt like Knives Out was like
seen it.
It's like a murder mystery. It's like Clue, but
I've heard a lot about it, like how people are really they really liked it.
Everybody really liked it. And I made a deal with one of my buddies. I'm talking to you, Colin, and I told him, you need to watch The Joker. The Joker's a great movie. The new one with Joaquin Phoenix. That movie's great. You need to watch it. And he was like, no, I'm not into incel stuff. I was like, that's not what it's about. Just try it out. And he was like, well, you need to watch Knives Out. It's incredible. And I was like, I hate Rian Johnson. He ruined Star Wars. I'm not watching that movie. So we made a deal to watch the other one, and then we'd talk about it.
Yeah.
I watched Knives Out. I'm sure he probably hasn't watched The Joker still. But the thing and this is part of the reason why with movies and stuff, why I wanted to kind of learn more about them and get more into like the details and stuff, is because at the end of Knives Out, there was something about it that I just couldn't put my finger on why I didn't like it. And when I learned more about like, I don't know, plot or whatever, the more I was like, yeah. No, this makes sense why this is dumb. Like this is just like, I feel like there's movies like that where it's just like, it looks pretty enough. It's just enough of whatever where people are like, yeah, it's great. Loved it. But for me, I like to critique like the plot and what happens and whether or not it made sense and like stuff like that. So for me, it's like, well, this was out of place. Like what? And it's all subjective. I am not saying I'm above anybody else's opinion. If you like Knives Out and The Glass Onion or whatever the fuck the sequel is, watch them every day like my sisters did with Finding Nemo. I don't care. But, and maybe I just hate Rian Johnson and needed a reason to not like Knives Out.
Well,
But the like double, triple twist at the end of that movie is so convoluted and conceited and just feels like he's shoving something down my throat. And it's like, get off of me, dude.
Yeah, I haven't seen it, so I can't rebuttal any of that.
Maybe we'll put it on the list. Maybe not, because I don't really want to watch it again. But
yeah, yeah. Oh my god, I keep yawning. Yeah. Midsummer, I really enjoyed it for what it was, but that one, I had a much harder time like suspending my disbelief of like all the things that had to go wrong to get here. I was like,
oh yeah, because there's no other people in the world that know about this village that's still doing this shit.
Yeah, I was like, so not only are you in this crazy village where like clearly, like I get that her family had just died. Like I understand that she was very mentally unstable at the time, but like all this crazy shit starts happening. They were not holding you prisoner there. At least I don't think. Oh, wait. Did they try to leave?
I think
Did the guys tried to leave and they killed him?
That was kind of the lore that was like partially revealed by the end, was that they do that. They somehow get people to come there every year and kill them all.
Right, yeah. But there was like there were just
which
a couple
also
things.
If people continue to come to this village
and
every year and they never come back, people are just like, well, my son's gone.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah.
Well, and that they're all most likely like the guy, the main guy who was like, my family does this thing, you should come with me. Like he had probably done that multiple times, and it's like, okay, so like again, that was hard to believe, where I was like, yeah, someone would catch on at some point. Someone would go looking for their son or their daughter or whatever. Like, okay. Also, it takes place in the present where we have phones and cameras and like documentation of things like this going on. Also, like, again, maybe I'm totally wrong because I haven't seen it in a while, and maybe they did get killed if they tried to leave, but like, just leave.
Yeah,
like I can't remember, but like I think that's what makes like hauntings in movies so compelling, because if you live in a house and you bought it with your own money and turns out it's haunted, you can't just leave.
Well, you could, but it'd be really complicated and
it's
devastating
like
financially.
You're going to try your best to stay.
Right.
You're going to be like, okay, maybe I'm going crazy. It's probably not haunted. Everything's fine,
right.
Whatever. Like there is a plot there of like, oh, there's a reason why they are dealing with all this weird shit.
Right.
Whereas there's a lot of movies where I'm like, just get out of there.
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Just
leave.
You can leave. Like, it's okay.
Oh my
just
God.
leave.
Yeah, and then there, I think that's why like space horror is so scary, because you can't leave.
You can't leave.
Like you literally can't leave.
No, for sure.
Like at all. Even if you wanted to leave, you can't.
Which was why Aniara was so compelling.
Oh my God, I love that movie.
It's so great.
I cried that night.
Amazing.
I had like an anxiety attack.
Yeah, thinking about being in space.
I don't think I was directly thinking about it. I thought I was just having a rough night, but I definitely think it was because of that movie.
Yeah.
It really got to me. The idea of being stranded has always been a really big fear of mine. And like in space, it's just taken to the next level. Cause like, even if people know where you are, they can't come save you, in space.
Well, were we watching Futurama where they were like just out of reach of the fastest they could go. So they like couldn't catch up. They couldn't. Bender got pushed off faster than they could go.
Yes.
So he was accelerating faster than they could ever keep up. So he was going forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's like so crazy to think about the physics of that, like vacuum reality, whatever. But yeah. Well, I mean,
so good.
I think I'm pretty wrapped up on this. I think.
Do you have a pen?
Not in here. Why?
I wanted to write down movies for us to watch.
We can write them in a minute.
I just don't want to forget them. I will forget. I have the brain of a goldfish. I'll forget them in 2 seconds.
They'll come back to you again, just like my notes did about the how that girl died a little and then came back, and that was weird. All right, what are we movies to watch?
What?
Remember I just said that girl died. She came back to life. She wasn't totally dead. So how much does it take to kill the shadow people?
Right. Okay.
It came back to me.
Right. Okay.
What, movies to watch?
Yeah, movies to watch.
Okay.
Well, maybe Anaria, however you spell it.
Swedish people are crying. Was it Norwegian?
I don't know. I think it was Swedish. And see, they're already gone. I thought of like 4 and they're already gone. Hereditary, I guess.
It's a maybe. I don't know if I want to commit myself to that again.
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, I
It's
don't
a lot,
know.
dude.
I have Elise at work is watching we both watched American Horror Story at the same time. Well, I was watching it again. She was watching it for the first time. Murder House, the first season, and so we were watching it simultaneously.
Isn't that the best one?
It's debatable.
It kind of fell off after a while.
I'd say that's the best one, and then Coven is a close second. They're like neck and neck to me. But
I feel like by the 6th and 7th ones, you were like, "What are we doing here?"
we don't talk about those. Anything after Freak Show and like maybe Hotel.
And the idea was super cool.
We don't talk about
to do
those.
Different seasons every different places, whatever. But
Cult and Apocalypse were wow. No, but we were watching those, and so she directly, once we were both done with season 1, Murder House, she went directly to the second season, which is Asylum, and I skipped the second season and went directly to Coven. And I think I told her that, and like I don't know if she asked why or whatever, but I basically was like, Asylum was so good, it was amazing. But I've watched it once and I'll never watch it again because it was so freaky. And like, it was that season more than most of them felt like trauma porn. It felt, have you seen Asylum, the second one?
I'm pretty sure I have.
I think I've watched much. It is.
I watched.
Oh my God.
Some of it, probably at least a couple seasons worth, but I can't remember which ones. And
it has religious undertones. It has insane asylum in the 60s. It has aliens. It has Nazis. It has I'm not even kidding. It has like surgery. It has torture. It has like torturing disabled people. It like literally more than most of the other seasons, except Freak Show was pretty bad too, but it like was so much of an overload that I was like, I watched it once. I think I might have watched it one more time to show someone. We were watching it together, but
sometimes watching it with someone can help.
Yeah, but I'm like, I don't need to subject myself to that again. And I feel like that with Hereditary too, because it's so much like just, and it's,
I mean, incredible
so
piece of art.
Good,
and like with Midsummer, I feel like Midsummer was like the practice swing, and then Hereditary, he knocked it out of the park with like what he was trying to do with horror, with his style, his filmography. Like that was like he did it. Yeah. He did what he had set out to do. Like this is his thing. Yeah. And it's worth experiencing.
Yeah.
Once.
It 100% is. Yeah. And like, it's tough though, because if you
don't like scary movies, do not watch Hereditary.
If you are emotionally impacted, like after a like quote unquote scary movie, like one of the, normal ones like Insidious or, whatever, if that makes you scared to like walk around your house at night, like
what's the found footage one that they have like 25
Paranormal
of them?
Activity. Yeah. Just Hereditary is a visceral like type of horror that I just cannot even describe. And so I have a confession. I've never watched The Exorcist.
Is it worth it? I don't know.
Yes. It's literally, people consider it, besides Hereditary and The Shining, the best horror movie of all time.
The Shining is horror?
Yeah.
Oh.
I mean, it's in the horror genre, yeah. But I wonder what dictates horror. Is it just anything that makes you feel fear?
I mean, that's subjective.
But no, I've never seen it because I never wanted to. I was like, I don't want that negativity in my life.
Is objective the one that depends on your opinion, or subjective? It's subjective.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did I say objective?
No, I am trying to figure out the difference by myself over here.
The objective opinion is something that's just logical,
the general,
like the fact.
Yeah.
Subjective is my opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah,
if The Exorcist. Well, now I'm thinking about how many rap songs use it as like I've heard it before of like as a metaphor in like different places. So yeah, probably worth a watch.
Yeah, well, and there's something to be said. I need to find the actual like article that talks about it, but especially with The Exorcist and Rosemary's Baby,
that movie's crazy.
Men find that those two movies particularly disturbing.
Really?
Like more than women. Yes. Obviously
yeah.
it's disturbing for women, but like men in particular are like, that is like horrific. That made me so like
Rosemary's
physical
Baby was
unease.
great.
And there's basically like this kind of like
that's a classic right there.
Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby.
Yeah. And so it's like basically just commenting on like the horrors of girlhood, essentially.
But it makes men uncomfortable?
Yeah, because it's something that's like so foreign to them.
Oh.
Whereas
I guess that makes sense.
There's like a...
Yeah, people with no empathy.
What?
I don't know. I'm just like, Rosemary's Baby didn't freak me out.
No. I would have to... If we watch The Exorcist...
it's on the list. Look, I put it on the list.
Maybe I can find the article and bring it up during and kind of mention it. But yeah, there's something to be said there about men seeing women in such a horrific state was like apparently, especially at the time, very disturbing. Whereas women are like, being a woman is horrific. Like, I don't, like, and it's gruesome and, all of that sometimes. And so I think for men being faced with that, especially at the time where women tended to present very manicured and very clean.
Oh, for the time, Rosemary's Baby is probably like fucking devastating.
Yeah. And so to see,
what was
like,
that? When did that movie come out? Like the 30s?
70s.
Oh. It's like in black and white.
It could be earlier than that. I know it was definitely after the Hays Code.
1968.
Yeah. It wouldn't have been before that.
Is it in black and white?
Could
Psychological horror film. See, I watched that and I was like, yeah, that's just a good movie. Think with Us. I was like, yeah, it's thriller maybe, but...
Yeah, I think... Well, I don't know what you consider horror.
I think that...
Because it seems like you consider it not what people call horror.
I think it all makes sense being in the horror genre. But for me, like, I remember watching the all 15 of the Final Destination
I never watched
movies.
those. I was like,
Are these horror?
Yeah.
Horror film. Supernatural horror film. I remember watching these and just being like, that's it? Like, that's a horror movie? Like, that's a scary movie? I was like, okay. By the fifth one, I was like, everybody dies. I get it.
Maybe
no big
you're
deal.
Just not scared by stuff.
But that's what I was saying when we started.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying is it's hard for me to judge because, like, the only genuinely scary movie I feel like I've watched, into my memory, like, I don't know, my parents are probably going to listen to this podcast and be like, remember when you were 7 and you, I don't know. But as a teen,
you're scared of as a kid doesn't count.
I watched all the Final Destination movies and was like, wow, okay.
Well, I don't know if those are actually... I've never seen them because I know it's just like people like die. There's just so much death, which to me, people
films.
just getting murdered or like accidentally dying, like that's not...
Well, but
that's
see, that's
scary.
the thing is it's included in horror. And so
Right.
that's what I'm saying. It's like this counts as horror. The Exorcist counts as horror. Us counts as horror and Hereditary counts as horror. So there's like, I'm sure you could niche down on and make like a flow chart or some pie triangle
You
type
got like
deal
slashers,
of like
screamers,
psychological horror, gruesome horror, whatever. But anyway.
Can we... I know we're probably running pretty long.
I think we're at 2 hours already.
But...
Yep. 1:59. Nailed it.
Yo, I just wanted to look up like the scariest movies, and because
so we can watch all of them.
I'm trying to think of
scariest movies of all time.
I'm trying to think of the scariest movie I've ever seen.
Halloween.
Great, awesome. Nosferatu. Oh no.
Nosferatu.
Apparently,
in 1922, that was freaking everybody out.
I've never seen Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I've heard it's great. But I'm like, I don't know if I want to see that.
I don't know. That's all I'm saying is normally when I watch scary movies, I'm like, oh yeah, they did the thing. That was pretty good. Like, but I'm not like freaked out for a week.
Well, no.
Okay, look, top Rotten Tomatoes right here. This one looks good. Number 1, Exorcist.
Yeah.
So that's on our list to watch. Hereditary is number 2. Hey, there we go. See? If Hereditary is number 2 and The Exorcist number 1, then we better strap in. Number 4 is The Shinning's not scary. I don't get this.
Yes, it is.
It's scary?
It's like, I don't know what you define as scary. Like the idea is like being stuck in a hotel, like being snowed in and like slowly your husband's slowly going insane or you are slowly going insane. Like that's
if I'm going
scary.
insane, there's nothing to worry about because I don't even know what's happening, right? Like,
a lot of horror.
Ooh, The Ring was good. The Ring was really good. That one was pretty freaky.
I hate that one. That's
like,
so creepy.
Just because it's like good bad, like because it's good freaky, or because you thought it was bad.
It's good freaky. I don't like the idea of
The Ring was pretty freaky. That one freaked me out.
Yeah.
Yep.
That one very creepy. Insidious.
Whatever.
It was a good one.
The new one with the kids, or
well, I guess not the old one, little corny. But Halloween. Oh, I thought that that thumbnail made me think they were saying the newest Halloween. I was like, there is no way that the newer Halloween is scary.
Well, we got The Exorcist on the list. Let's start there.
Yeah.
I don't wanna do a horror movie podcast though, so we can pick some
we'll
other
do
stuff to watch.
But yeah, I'm just trying to think of like what, like I'm racking my brain right now. I'm like, what movies really scared me?
Hereditary is my number 1. I don't remember. Freaky. My computer just made a shortcut to the Rosemary's Baby thing that we just watched, and that was pretty freaky. Our life is a horror movie. Your duplicate's right behind you. Don't look.
I obviously Hereditary was super scary to me. I'm like, shit.
That's my number 1 from stuff that I've seen.
What scared me?
The Ring was pretty freaky.
I watched so many when I was young that I'm like, those don't count because I was a kid. Like they scared me because I was a kid.
Right.
I saw, man, maybe I'll try to come up with a list because I've seen so many scary movies. But I think, the Babadook was really creepy to me. That one creeped me out just because it was a really slow burn.
Babadook. I don't think I've seen that one.
I didn't like it. Even saying the name kind of freaks me out.
Shmabadook.
It was just the unknown aspect of it was what got me, because it like didn't.
Well, that's the thing about horror. That's the thing about horror, and that's like, I think that's why there's a good amount of it that I just kind of am like, whatever, because what you create in your mind is always worse than what it is.
Yes.
And so the best horror movies are the ones that's why I was saying it's like 7/8 of the movie is what's the thing? And then when they
Right.
show you their cheap CGI, you're like, oh, crazy. And then you're just like, all right, whatever. I'm going to go on with my life. Because your imagination
Always
is the real
scary.
horror movie.
Yes, absolutely.
The ability for your imagination to create the worst case scenario and the thing you're most afraid of is way farther worse than anything they could put on screen,
Yeah.
which is why the freakiest ones are always the ones that are like, they don't show you hardly anything, and so your imagination and the little tricks in the mirror, whatever. That's why I feel like with Us and with Hereditary and stuff like that, where they're done really, really well and they don't rely on that, it's like the slow burn, especially in Hereditary. It's a real the ending, you're like, what just happened?
Yeah, that the ending visuals are so creepy
It's like,
too.
This was and then you go back and there's like
Oh,
little
it's
clues
everywhere.
in the whole movie. You're like, no.
Yeah.
That's great horror. But the whole like, oh, what is it? There's a shadow in the mirror, and your imagination's like, it's the thing that I saw when I was 7. It's like, whatever, you know?
Yeah.
That's how I feel about it. That's my personal opinion. But
No, there's definitely like fun horror, and then there's like the really good stuff where like we're kind of sitting here and we're like, do I want to watch Hereditary again? You know, I'm like,
it takes a toll.
yeah, I'm like, I'm gonna need to prepare for that. Whereas like certain movies,
It might not be the worst the second time though, because you know it.
Yeah,
It might not be quite. I don't know. Maybe the only way to know is if we watch it again.
Yeah.
But
There is one that I want to watch, but I don't want to watch because it kind of freaks me out. It's called Skinamarink, and I want to watch it, but I don't want to watch it.
You have watched it before already?
No, I haven't watched it. Which
What's it?
scares
How do you
me.
spell it?
It's a type of analog horror thing. Skinamarink. There it is.
Skinamarink. 2022.
It's a newer.
It's not rated.
No.
Sounds creepy.
But if
Canadian.
if
Oh, they're
you
probably really nice.
go to like images.
The
It's like it's analog, so it's like very.
see all the little dark things. Your imagination starts
That's what I'm
filling the
saying,
space in,
is
and
I'm like,
that's
I don't
like
wanna-
the whole thing.
That's why I'm like, I don't really want to watch it. It freaks me out. I don't want that dead space, you know.
This telephone toy. Never mind. I can't.
Baby, I was gonna say something that was important, and I don't remember.
That's how these things go.
Yeah. But I want to watch It Follows.
Have I seen that one?
No, you have not.
I haven't?
No.
Okay.
Well, because when that was gonna be the first movie we watched, and then I was like, nah, let's not do that. I want to watch It Follows. It Follows is so good. You're probably gonna realize over time that I really enjoy movies that like the meaning is a lot more like a lot of them have to do with like being a girl and like
That's what we were
being
talking
a woman
about.
and stuff.
That's fine.
So it follows is more of about adolescence, but
oh yeah.
so I really enjoy that. So normally I'll be going into that quite a bit with movies more than the cinematography or whatever. And I'm so pumped to watch Killing of a Sacred Deer again. Oh my god.
I feel like the second watching is going to be a treat.
Yeah.
The first watching was a little confusing till we kind of got it.
Yeah.
And the second watching is just going to be like
it's gonna be so
good
fun.
times.
I'm so excited. Yeah.
That's going to be fun. Well, I think I don't know. Let's see. Oh, should we check our email live real quick?
Yeah, live.
We made a big
on
stink about our
air.
email last week. Linktree.
Guys, what the hell?
TikTok friend.
Check our
TikTok
spam. Check our
recommends
spam just
promotions,
in case.
Lego, Southwest Airlines, Linktree, social, nothing. We didn't even get new comments on our YouTube draft spam. One. Oh, podcast added to Bullhorn
Okay.
from the Apple Podcast Library. Come on, Apple. What are you doing?
Guys,
It's
what
spam or
did I
something.
say last time? I threatened you last time.
No emails.
You don't want to
Stuck-
know.
Stuck together pod at gmail.com.
Pod. Not podcast.
Stuck Together Podcast is getting a bunch of emails that we're not getting, apparently. People are like, why didn't they get our email? Stuck Together Pod.
Guys, even if it's just to say hi, okay? Like, I need it.
Anyone. We need to know that
Dear
people are listening
God.
to our podcast. Tell us your favorite movie or a movie you'd want us to watch.
Please tell us a movie you want us to watch.
And if you like the new format, because I think I was sitting here thinking about it, and I'm like, we're just off the cuff referencing Aniara, Hereditary, all these movies.
Yeah.
And it's like totally our thing.
Yeah.
And
we love movies.
I know one person told me that they really liked that our podcast didn't have a theme and that it was kind of all over the place, which is kind of what I was saying. But we did get on some tangents on this episode talking about the movie. But yeah, the hope is that it'll just start to be a catalyst for a conversation. And we love movies, but just let us know what you think. And if you think it's dope and if it's going to encourage you to watch movies, or if you're excited to watch a movie and listen to us talk about it, or not watch the movie and just listen to us talk about random movie stuff.
Yeah.
Or if you're not going to listen to the podcast anyway, just let us know. Give us a little feedback.
If you did not watch us and you just listened to that podcast,
email us.
That is the worst movie analysis you've ever experienced.
I was thinking
if you don't know what we're talking about.
We should maybe do like a little summary at
like
the
a
beginning.
little notes.
Just so people know, so they don't have to, because we did kind of, we might be able to do a little summary at the beginning just to kind of lay it out, because I don't want to have to not talk about spoilers.
Yeah,
so
I don't like that.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But
yeah, maybe that sounds like a good idea. Maybe like just a kind of cliff notes.
So that way,
summary.
if you don't care and you just want to listen
to
the podcast, you can get it.
Or like, when we cover Hereditary, if you're someone that like, because of how much we've talked about it and clearly how a lot of people think it's really scary, if you're like, I don't want to watch that shit, then at least you'll know what's going on and what we're talking about with a little summary beforehand. Because I've done that where like with analog horror series where I'm really, really scared to watch them and I don't want to do it, I just listen to Wendigoon talking about it. It's one of my YouTubers that I watch. I'm just like, you tell me what's going on so I don't have to watch it because I'm scared. But then I go and watch it after to like support them and like give them views on their channel, but like the actual creator channel, but I watch the summary first.
A serene family vacation turns frightening when a family's nightmarish doppelgangers descend upon their beachfront abode. That's the Us summary that we just talked about for 2 hours.
Yeah. Man.
Ooh, he won the Saturn Award for Best Director.
Ooh.
Ominous, scary. Winston Duke, is that the
Maybe
husband?
We need, I would love to watch the American Horror Story seasons and talk about them.
By yourself, right?
They're really good.
Anyways, thank you so much for listening to the podcast this week, guys.
Yeah. Thanks. Oh, look at the little guy is up there.
The scissors.
Oh
what
my
is
God.
this? What is this Google thing scrolling right now? That's crazy.
It's like a little thingy for the movie. Wow, that's so cute.
Oh, that's crazy. They got a bunch of weird emojis related to the movie scrolling on Google.
It's literally just pairs of people and then scissors. That's it.
I don't want to dive into an AI tangent while we're already on hour 2, but like this type of shit is like what I see AI doing in the future. AI is just gonna like give you totally useless information that like you didn't ask for out of nowhere because it thinks it like people are trying to make it too helpful, and you're gonna be like, get out of here, stop, and like your AI assistant's gonna be like, didn't you order donuts yesterday? Don't you want donuts again? And then we gave you these donut, and it's got 5 donut emojis floating in your Google glasses, and you're like, shut up, get out of here. I can't believe I paid $3,000 for these.
Yeah.
It's going to be so bad. People are like, it's going to take over the world. I'm like, it's going to suck. It's going to be really low quality and bad.
Because it's how like most other technology goes when you're like, this is going to make my life better. And then like the first stages of it are just really annoying normally.
until it settles into like
yeah.
normal life, because that's the thing. Oh, she's on both cams.
Oh, double frita cam. Let's go. The exhaustion is setting in. I'm tired.
Anyway, I think we should wrap it up.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we tried to wrap it up twice. What do you got?
I hope you guys have a great weekend, whenever you're listening to this. And I love you. And stop looking at me like that.
I'm just looking.
I love my fans.
Me too. I love your fans too.
They're all my fans. That's it. No, I thank you guys so much for your support and feedback and all of that. And yeah, we're gonna try this new movie thing and see how it goes. So
yep, I'm into it. Sounded pretty good to
it.
me. And I felt like it was easier to just watch a movie and talk about it instead of guys. We would literally stress about what is our stupid topic gonna be, and how do we not offend everybody, and if we pick this topic, we're gonna talk about something everybody else doesn't want to talk about, and do I feel comfortable with that, and how do I artificially this is way easier for us. I really enjoyed it, and hope you guys did too.
Yeah.
So anyways, we'll catch you next week. With Ackland will be here, and this will be his podcast. He's taking over, I guess. He's gonna be on the podcast next week, and then we'll have a different movie for you probably after that.
Yeah.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
See you.
Bye.